You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 207. So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us. Hi, gorgeous. I have missed you. I am back to share some exciting news with you this week. I think something that when we leave our fertility treatments without a baby, we carry a lot of burden for ourselves and the things that we have experienced and the recreation that we think is a curse, and maybe it might not always feel like a blessing, and it doesn't have to feel like a blessing, but there is so much rediscovery that's available to us, and we're going to talk about it this week because 2 years ago I quit my job. If you heard podcast episode, God, I want to say it was maybe in like the 140s or 150s, I don't even remember, but I talked all about leaving my job. And this was not just any job. 20 years I spent in the world of the medical device arena, in sales, and I decided after the best year in my career, I had just won President's Club, and if you're in sales, you know what that means. It is the premier thing that you can achieve when you are a salesperson. I had just won President's Club, and I made the most money I ever made in my career and actually ever made in my life. And I walked away from all of it. And on Monday, I am going back to corporate work. And so today I want to tell you the whole story, why I left, what happened in between, and why recreating yourself is not the ending that you think of it in being. And you know my story. I spent 7 years infertility treatments. I did everything from IUI, IVF, more things than I can count, like Reiki and energy and healing. And in 2018, when I learned that my path to motherhood was over, I was devastated because I'm sure you understand that too. That moment where this door closes and nobody hands you a map for what comes next. And I did not bounce back from that. I sat in it for a very long time. And there was this feeling that I had of anger, of disappointment, of self-pity, of why me, of what did I do wrong? Like all this stuff that I looked introspectively at. I created this situation of not being able to have a child for myself. Was I mean to people earlier in my life? Was I not a good person? Was God punishing me? All these things. And somewhere in that sitting between 2018 and 2020, I found that there was a different story I was wanting, and I just didn't know where to go for it. And then in 2020, I explored coaching. And I won't give you everything here because if you've been listening to the podcast, this is all old news to you. But one thing that I know is that when you leave fertility treatments without a child, there is rarely a roadmap. No resources, no one hands you anything, no one suggests you do anything if it's not continuing on through surrogacy, adoption, or a donor egg. So I decided that I wanted to be the person who filled that gap. But here's the thing. While I was building all of that, I had a full-time job and a full-time career, and I was becoming more and more integrated in the fertility space. And even while I was still achieving the most I'd ever achieved in my career, because I was really good at that job. And it was like really head scratching to people when I told them that I was leaving, because they would be like, why are you leaving? You're making such good money. You just hit President's Club. But there was like so many reasons on paper to stay. But in my heart, there were so many reasons to go. My podcast, this little thing that I started in my closet with a pair of earbuds, the one you are listening to right now, when it launched in 2021, I had no idea if anyone would listen. And look at it now. Women from around the world have reached out to say that they have listened, that they wanted to work with me as their coach, that they wanted to come to Others Day, that they wanted to read my book. So all this stuff. So if that's you right now, I want you to know you are amazing. And I'm so glad that you are here. And during that time of considering leaving, I was in the middle of writing my book, and there were so many impacts I wanted to make and resources I wanted to create. And I didn't want to just write something that was like equal to these AI guides and these books people say they're writing, and it's all AI generated and then they're selling them on Amazon. I wanted to write a book that not only would help women going through this be seen and figure things out, but I wanted to reach the fertility doctors. I wanted to reach fertility clinics. I wanted to go to the source of people who want to better serve their patients who are nearing the end of their journey. And maybe they hadn't in the past because they just didn't have the tools to do it. So on the eve of my 50th birthday in 2024, at the height of my best year in my career ever, I resigned. And I want you to really sit with that for a second. I was not at rock bottom. I didn't do it when things fell apart. I was at the top, the eve of turning 50. You think of 50 and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm over the hill. But I want to be honest with you. This was not impulsive. I had planned for this for a long time. I was squirreling away money from my commission checks for years, building a runway so I could actually create and do these things that help you every single day without panic. But even with the planning, I was terrified. I was walking away from 20 years of an identity that I had created for myself, from a paycheck I knew that I could count on, from a title that made sense to everyone around me, to this respect that I had created for myself with the surgeons that I worked with and the healthcare providers that I helped every single day. But I was also walking towards something that did not have a title yet. And maybe you know that feeling too. Walking towards something that doesn't have a name. In these 2 years of not having a corporate job, I have made such an amazing impact in the world of infertility. And I want to walk you through what that actually looked like, because I want you to hear it as proof as what is possible for you too. Not that you have to go do the things that I do or write a book or start a podcast. Like maybe you want to do those things and I think it's awesome. But there is this idea that we have that when we can't become moms, we have to just wither away into the sun and go just disappear somewhere. But you don't have to. And I know that I created conversations where there used to be silence. And that sentence means more to me than almost anything else I'll say today. And when I wrote my book, So Now What, I'll never forget the day on Amazon when it rated #1 new book in the fertility and infertility categories on Amazon. And I was just like, oh my God, little old me created this thing that you now can hold in your hand, and you have something that you can order and read if you left your journey without a child. You now have a resource because of that. And that word matters to me, that you are resourced, because I did not have that. My podcast, this little baby podcast, grew into a top ranking show with over 50,000 listeners. That's 50,000 people who needed to hear that they aren't alone. And maybe that's you. I also came up with this crazy idea in 2022, this concept of the Others Day that is now happening in the US and internationally. This year, I received the trademark from the US Patent and Trademark Office for the Others Day, which means I get to do so much with it now that it's protected from anyone else trying to create their own something with Others Day, because I want the work that I do and the way that it is presented to you to be intentional, something that's built for the long run, for you and for the women who come after you. The women who are sitting in those fertility clinics right now that are still undergoing treatment and have no clue that they're going to end up like us. Because somewhere in the building of all of this, I started to notice something. The work that I'm doing isn't just advocacy work. This was me rediscovering who I was outside of the identity I thought I'd have as a mother. I have spoken on stages about redefining your identity without children. I've been on TV, I've been on radio, here in Chicago, across the United States, and internationally. And actually tomorrow I have an interview scheduled with BBC Radio, like my first time on BBC, and I'm just like, what the hell? But I'm also in the middle of collecting data for research with a study that is going on with Northwestern University, understanding the support women actually have received and the support that they wish that they would have received when they left fertility treatments without a child. And that data is going to matter, hopefully, to the women who are not yet at the point where you and I are, so that the providers know that patients need this. We need to have greater conversations about this. So my goal is to have this data be translated and published so that it can help the clinics and doctors do better for you and for the women walking this path after us. And none of this happened because I had a job protecting me. It happened because I stepped away from the thing that I felt most safest doing. And that was my corporate job and a secure paycheck. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. And interestingly enough, I'm going back to corporate work, not to my same company, not in the same field of medicine. It's yes, in medical device sales, but a totally different area. I'm going into cardiology, something I have never worked in before, something I know nothing about, but I'm ready to do this at age 52. And I know how that sounds. 2 years of advocacy, a best-selling book, a trademark, BBC Radio, national news, and now I'm going back to corporate? But here's what I need you to understand. That does not mean I am walking away from any of this. Not my advocacy work, not my speaking work, not the podcast you're listening to right now. That's not going anywhere. But what I'm talking about today is something that I've learned that I think matters more than any of the numbers that I just gave you. For so many of us, we grew up believing motherhood is our one shot at self-discovery, at our identity, that becoming a mom is the thing that shows us who we really are. And when that path closes, it can feel like the door to ever discovering yourself again is just closed with it. But I am here to tell you that I am living proof that is not true. And I need you to hear that too. I have seen it over and over in the women that I coach and now in my own life. You are not one door. You are not one adjective. You are not one description. You can create yourself. You can start something brand new, even when it feels like it's too late, even when everyone around you thinks you've already figured out who you are. I'm doing that right now. I'm 52 years old, walking back into a specialty in medical device sales I have never worked in before, contacts I have zero in, something I know nothing about yet at age 52. And what I really want you to hear is that this does not have to feel like a chore. Rediscovering yourself is not a punishment for the life you didn't get. In many ways, it can feel like a privilege. When your fertility journey broke your heart, something else became possible too. The chance that you get to ask of yourself, who am I? Outside of this plan I had, who am I? And that question, yes, it can feel so freaking terrifying to sit with. It becomes maybe also one of the most amazing things you ever get to explore as a woman. Because, girl, you are allowed to rise again. Not because you have to prove anything, but because you get to see how much more you are than the one path you thought that you would walk. So as I'm drying my tears, when I say these 2 years gave me something the corporate world couldn't, That is what I mean. The seeds I've planted are continuing to grow. They don't need me standing over them every single hour of every single day anymore. They have roots. These 2 years away from the corporate workplace have allowed me to do the things I couldn't do while working full time in the way that I like to work, in the way that I show up, in the type of employee that I am. But the ability to build without a boss's calendar deciding what I couldn't do. I needed that time to just have that for me. But now I get to go back into that world differently. Not because I need it to define me, not because I need the paycheck to feel worthy, but because I'm ready for it on my terms this time. That's the real story here. It's not leave the safer thing, live happily ever after. It's leave the safe thing, build something that matters, and then decide with open eyes what you want next. So if you're sitting here and you're listening to this in a season right now where you don't know what is next, I just want you to hear this. You don't have to have it all figured out before you take the first step. I didn't, let me tell you. I just knew I had something to build and I needed and wanted to make room for it. And you don't have to know yet either. You just sometimes have to make room. And that, to me, is the space and the message that we often don't hear as women who are childless after IVF. So I hope you have a beautiful week. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I hope to talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called the Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/things people say.